also bring it up on my. Your sound effect.
Not wearing my ears this morning.
Me either. I brought them just in case. I was like, just in case I have them on deck. I have them on deck just in case we need them.
It's like mine are just out of reach. Just enough for me to say, I see you, I acknowledge you, ears.
I acknowledge you. It's a part of me.
Yeah, it's an extension of myself.
Yes, we are live officially. Yay. And I love how people are probably going to assume that we're not social distancing because they're going to think that we're at the same place. But we are definitely not. We just have those sister vibes of buying the same shit even when we don't discuss it.
Buying the same shit. I think I told you.
And organizing it in the same way. Like, you put yours in the exact same way without even knowing.
Yep. Yeah. I remember the first time I fitted you on my last apartment after I put it up, you were like, hold up a goddamn minute.
I was like, hold on. Go back.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I love that shit. Let's see. Oh, hey, sis. In here. So, how you feeling this morning, Kitty?
Feeling good.
Shuffling our cards and shit.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling good. I slept super well last night. All my plants are happy.
Yes.
I'm actually sprouting an avocado. I know. For the first time, it's been 15 years of me trying to do this. It finally happened.
They're bitch, man. Those trees. They're rough. At least for me. I have zero any type of any green thumb other than watering stuff. That's all I know. We need to add these nutrients. And do you see the color on the leaf? And let's add this. And I'm like, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Whatever you tell me to do, I will definitely do it. I will 100% do it. So yeah, we are. I'm feeling good too. I actually slept. I've been sleeping a long time, longer than normal with regular life.
More than 9 hours of sleep?
No, that's too long for me.
Gotcha. I usually do sleep a little shorter.
Yeah, I usually, I'm just the type of person that can survive off of 4 hours of sleep regularly. And during quarantine, I've been sleeping for 6, 7, 8, which is more than ever. And I'm actually getting a higher sleep percentile in my sleep ratings when I track it.
Nice. So you're not only are you sleeping longer, but you're getting good sleep.
Yeah, I'm getting better sleep. And I'm falling asleep early, how we should be and how we've always learned, in our spiritual practices of going to sleep pretty early, things I never thought would be obtainable for someone like me who's a night owl. I'm definitely falling asleep I'm getting tired at 9:30 and going to bed between 10 and 11:30. And I'm like, oh God, who am I?
Look at that. Yeah.
My body's oh, you actually are trying to take care of us now. We got this. We're gonna get on board for your health. So so we're here with our tea.
Yeah.
What kind of tea are you doing this morning?
I have a Tulsi rose tea in my happy IKEA mug.
Yum. That's amazing.
Yeah. This is one of the first teas that I started drinking when I first moved to Austin. And I always loved it because the box says it's stress relieving and magical. And I'm like, heck yeah, magical.
By the way, look what I just pulled.
Ooh.
2 of Wands.
Come on.
I feel like that's us right now. But
yes.
We're the 2 Wands. Yeah, I'm just drinking my hot lemonade, which sounds disgusting, but it's not really lemonade whatsoever. It's just hot water. with fresh lemon squeezed into it and a little bit of honey.
Nice.
But I don't like most teas.
I did not know that.
I'm just not a huge tea fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this lemon water, and it primes my digestive system really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more of the strategy for me. I know that morning tea is a really good morning ritual that I know Kayla and I both were familiar with, because we have most of the same schools of training in terms of our spiritualities and understandings, and existed in that space together and learned together. Hey, Kai. And I know that we learned as a nice, like, I think it's like, I like to refer to it as mindful consumption ritual, of just like being mindful of putting something in your body first and taking that time for you and having it just be like quiet space, and also priming your digestive system for any food you're going to eat throughout the day. Really helps you get through.
And it's interesting how just like coming back to it from a mindful point of view as an adult, like that was always my grandmother's ritual. That was always like my dad's ritual in the morning. Like we always had peppermint tea like first thing in the morning and like right before you go to bed. Like,
yeah, it's really good for your belly. Hey, Keela. I'm seeing people pop in on Facebook. And yeah, it's just really good. It's really good for like getting all that food through your system. I've also been doing a lot of like my my eating in proper order, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about in the subject of today. Hey, Stephanie. And so I've also just been getting like the handful of fruit. And Alex is here. Hey, Alex. I've also been getting the handful of fruit in the morning as well. So that's been really, really nice. Oh, I have a jumping card though.
Who's jumping?
The Wheel of Fortune.
Ooh.
I haven't even done a spread yet, and I already have 2 cards. Stephanie says she loves your locks.
Thank you. We do. It's funny. We
were talking about that in the beginning when nobody was in here, so nobody knows.
We do. It just happened. Like literally a couple of years ago, like we said earlier, just on a call, and you were like, hold up a minute. I have that exact same one. I was like, shut up.
Not only did we buy the same tapestry, we bought the same mandala tapestry, and both put it above our beds at the exact same time, but we like neither of us knew until one day that we were doing one of our many weekly meetings, and you were on video chat with me, and I was like, what did you what and like I just saw something on your wall. I was like, where is that? What is going on here? So yeah, I just love that. I love that that just happens with us though, where we're like, hey, I wanted to tell you about this book, and then you like pull it out of your bag and you're like, bitch, I have this book. So Stephanie says that she's been walked 1 month and a few weeks and she loves it.
Yes, congratulations on the journey. Looking back, first of all, I was so excited because like I had my little lock bob, my little twisty.
Yes.
And I knew I was cute. Nobody could tell me nothing. But between that then and now, I think because I had to sit with my locks through all the phases of getting to the point where they matured, it's like I had to learn how to love myself differently, because I was just in the midst of like going through and like, you know, being honest with, okay, well, they're not as polished as I want, but I love it and it's fun and be present through it. Did I freeze?
Just a little bit, but I don't think you froze in real life. I think you just froze for me.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I love that. I love seeing your locks have grown so much too since I've known you. Yeah. I love that. It's so beautiful. I don't know if my neck would be able to handle the pressure and weight, but I posted a picture on my Scout Wild Wake Instagram of my natural curl yesterday, and got so many fucking responses from people who were like, "Oh my god, I like just like did the whole natural hair conversation happen?" And it was a lot of like women of color who were like, "Your curls are so great," and I was like, "Look, you know how this is because you have this same hair." So because I'm just like, let me just be real with you, because so many people were either asking me one of two questions: one, will you wear it curly more often? Or two, how do you straighten it? How do you keep it straight? And I was like, let me just be 100% honest with all of you. That one, I am lazy AF, and two, so I do the least amount of maintenance. But two, my hair only grows because it's straight. Because when it's curly, I can't get a fucking comb through it. So like, it actually only grows when it's straight. But yeah, I don't put all this effort into that shit. But I just
path of least resistance.
Yeah, the path of least resistance is really the path that I traveled. I traveled the path of least resistance. And but I love like the locks. I think I have a bad relationship with them only because mine form without my consent, and then I have to brush them out all the time. But yours have got like matured so much. They're so beautiful. And I also just like loved I remember when we first became friends and you came over and did Kevin's locks. And and then I also just love doing Kevin's locks. Like that is like a spiritual thing for us. I love like putting my hands in his hair and being able to like take care of them with him because he loves them so much. And he puts so much time and attention and care and into them that like it's like it's almost like that hot turn on when you see like a partner take care of a child and you're like, oh, that's so lovely. Like it's almost like that, but it's himself, so it's even more gratifying in a different way. And Stephanie says that hers are super short, but she can't wait to see them flourish. And that there is no ugly stage for her.
And that's the thing that I had to get around to, because I was also on some extra bullshit of like, I'm trying to be very professional and I don't have my hair straightened anymore and it looks unkept. And by the time like my first month went by, I was like, fuck that. So,
I'm no longer acceptable by the white society. They're afraid of me now.
Well, the funny thing is I was working at a HBCU at the time, so it was all internal. It was all internalized because everybody else was like,
that's real.
Yeah. Why is that a problem?
That's real.
I'm honest about my bullshit.
That is some real shit. Yeah. I'm honest about my bullshit. That's why I'm like, hey girl, let me just go ahead and tell you why my hair is not natural. And it's actually natural because I don't put fucking chemicals in it and shit, but this is not how my hair looks naturally, obviously. I have a very Puerto Rican curl, which now we know why. Recent events, we know why. So which is a topic for another live, talking about some ancestry shit we've been digging up. But what was I the topic. Hello, what are we doing? We were talking about morning rituals and tea and priming our digestive systems and our bodies. And it's interesting that we talked about priming our digestive systems because I didn't even make this connection before, but it kind of goes right into like what we're talking about today, which is the desire versus pleasure conversation. And how it presents itself into our body and how it presents itself into our systems and our energy. You wanna speak to your cards first? I've had 4 jumping cards.
Well, I just pulled cruelty out of the deck, which is so funny, especially in terms of like just speaking about my hair journey, because that's all this is just like negative self-talk. All that was negative self-talk and me, trying to make my hair something that it wasn't, trying to downplay my own beauty and ability and all sorts of other things. That's I have a love-hate relation. I have a love-hate relationship with all my cards. I love it because it's like, how like you always say your cards talk to you the way that you talk to yourself. I mean, and my cards definitely do. It's like, that's not necessary.
Snarky AF. Yeah, snarky AF. I feel like half the time we draw together, we're always like, look. Like we're always it's like silent, and then we both are pulling cards and we're talking to our decks and we're like, look, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for you to call me the fuck out and tell me exactly what I needed to hear. I didn't ask for that. And then it's like, but you did though. Like, but you picked up the
Did
card.
You not ask me?
Yeah.
You called me out. Just like, sure, fine. Yes, I did.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, when you were talking about hair, it's so funny because you say that it was like this battle for you with this hair, but every time I explain or feel like I have to explain my hair journey to people who are going to see me as less than or put me in a group of people because they also assume that like I'm wearing a weave, which then they're also judging all the people who decide to wear weaves. Every time you always look at me and you're like, it's the path of least resistance. And I'm like, that's exactly what you're doing though. You're choosing the path of least resistance. Like,
yeah,
this is the path of least resistance for you. You know what I mean? And it's like, and this is the path of least resistance for me just because of the type of hair that we have. So it's like, whatever we're doing to flourish and grow our antenna. Which one is that? I can't read. I'm blind.
Sorry. It's futility.
Futility. Got it.
Like, it is futile for me to sit here and try to finger comb out my hair because I know it's the best thing for my hair. My hair is so thick. Literally, locking my hair was the best decision that I could have made. So I don't know how this desire versus pleasure conversation became a hair conversation, but I'm here for it.
We're Black women. Everything's a hair conversation. And I literally, as soon as I get rid of and honestly, my fear comes from my chronic pain that you know about, like the nerve pain. I have nerve-based genetic pain in the right side of my jaw that runs in my family. And when it gets really bad, like it kind of is right now, it travels like down my neck and into this entire side of my shoulder. And that's the one thing that scared me even because I used to twist my hair. I mean, you remember, yeah, you knew me because I was at yoga at that time. When I twisted my hair all the time and I had like all these different things and I fucking loved that freedom, but it was so much weight because my hair was so goddamn thick that like my neck was always like, ugh, like there was like always so much fucking, and that's like what terrifies me out of locking my hair. And I'm like, well, if I get these surgeries that I need to have apparently and get my shit in check, maybe it'll be less of like an anxiety body worry for me to have heavy hair.
You know, the thing that I will say to that is, I think it's different when you have hair.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, you have to have your natural amount of hair.
Yeah.
But like, I just also know that locking your hair adds weight.
It does, but I find that's only when it's wet. I don't notice it as much because again, it's like just what is on my head.
That's
like,
a good question. That's a good point.
Only whenever I swim or when I wash my hair, like that's I think one of the reasons why I'm like, I love caring for my hair, but I'm also being very much so a Leo, again, path of least resistance. If anybody knows a really good lactician in Austin, hit a girl up. Because I know that I have to deal with the weight of the hair and the water on top of my head.
Which is me every day. I mean, I swim in the summer. I mean, you and I are in Barton I swim every day of the summer in Texas. And I swim so much that my hair, the way that it is, doesn't dry overnight. Because same. My hair, your hair's the same way. Because and we talked about it last summer. Like my hair is so thick when it gets wet, and I'm talking about like Diana Ross thick, that it doesn't dry overnight before we then go back and swim again. So we go back to Barton and my hair is still wet from the day before when we swam. And I'm like, fuck, I'm getting the water good. And then you're like fighting that matting as a result. And so I'm curious about what are your methods or do you always just let it air dry? Because that would be me. I would just have wet hair all the time. I'm worried about like mold growing or any of the stuff in your locks. Like, is there anything that you do to combat your hair being wet like all the time?
No, honestly, but I just let my hair do what it does. I do like apple cider vinegar washes at least like once a month. And to be honest, moisture is the issue that I always have. I'm a dry person. My mom's from British Guyana. We like dry humor. Cook from dry beans, the whole nine. I just kind of let it do what it does. And especially for me, if I wash my hair, I usually wash it in the morning because it's going to take all fucking day for it to dry.
And if you're in the sun, it'll help. Yeah. That's like the one thing I miss about teaching summer camp is like I would twist my hair in the summer camp, but I was like, oh, the best part is that I spend the whole day in the sun. So it'll like beat down on my head and dry my hair. Yeah, that's the one. I'm definitely worried about that because I'm a water baby. That's why when I was a kid, my mom was like, your hair's just going to be twisted all the time. Just like braided, twisted, just you're in the water 24 fucking 7. Like I can't deal with your bullshit.
CJ at Lots 101. Thanks, sis.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold that.
Oh yeah, this is what, when we were talking about hair, this is also what came up for me.
Ooh, hold on. I'm coming back. I wanted to put it in my thing. Whew.
I know. This is the path of least resistance for me, of being judged by Black women for having straight hair like my whole life. And that's just a real statement. That is like real statement to my experiences of people assuming that I am attempting to acclimate instead of making my own wise ass grown woman decisions. When people are like, but you just want to be accepted. I was like, I really don't give a fuck about what these white people think about me. I'm just 100 being honest. I wore a fro for 7 years and I don't give a fuck. But one thing I do realize is that when I wore my fro, my hair didn't grow like at all.
Yeah. I had a hard time because it just took so much fucking work. But again, like, I feel like also coming back to like the desire versus pleasure, like you brought up such a good point of, actually maybe it'd be good for you to tell of like how desire sort of like links to suffering, because I feel like I had a lot of that around like wanting my hair to be one thing, and then another piece in like of acceptance on my journey was like, okay, well my curl pattern is just different than what I have been seeing and what I have been aspiring to. That is just not the way that my DNA is programmed, and that is
No, that's true. I mean, it's so weird because when we were talking about this the other day, when we were like, we should go live and talk about this, it had nothing to do with hair. Nothing. So it's funny that today it's manifesting in the space of hair. But we started, let's kick off with that. Let's kick off with which, by the way, I also got Son of Wands. Which is crazy to me because that fucking snake, which is what we always talk about, like hydration, just
which is so funny. Like I'm dry.
Yeah. I'm just like, that fucking snake always comes back into play. That shamanistic snake is just following me everywhere. So we started talking about this because I realized that when I was in the group talking and I was asking about desire, right? And a lot of what I like to do in my job is I think that I'm doing is I think that I'm connecting people closer to their deepest desires. That is what that's how I've explained it to myself. But the other day, I don't even remember what sparked this, but we were talking about it. The other day, I started to think about what I knew about desire, just what I innately knew, and what I had studied from, different areas and spaces. I can't even remember who. Probably Carly Lemos introduced this. One of our teachers introduced this this side to me when we were learning about learning about Tantra philosophy, like tantric philosophy and Buddhism. And that desire was the root of all suffering. And when I started to dive into what I really understood about the word desire and about desires in general, I realized like, well, damn, yeah, that is like the root of all of our suffering. And for those who may not be as familiar with Buddhist understanding around desire, what they like for people to try to understand is that the more that you want something and the more that you crave something, you're trying to like white knuckle its way to you. And that it's going to lead to suffering no matter what, because things never show up the way that you want them to or expect them to. So you're going to be disappointed. And that the desired thing never stays. So if the root of all of your existence is this desire, if you're planted in that space of I desire this thing, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And that's a way to and not only that, but if you choose to desire something else, you have to do is learn how to suffer. And you have to learn how to suffer eloquently, which is hard for us humans to do. Also, side note, why I love Shibari. Whole other conversation for another day.
Yes. I hope you're writing down all these side conversations.
I know, I'm like, side conversation. But like, teaching you how to suffer, teaching your body how to suffer eloquently. But that really what we're looking for is what brings you, hey, Danny, what brings you pleasure. And the fact that we have this fucked up relationship with what pleasures us and what we're allowed to be pleasured by. And knowing that pleasure doesn't disappoint you because pleasure just exists and it's not based on your expectation. When desire is heavily rooted and based in the expectation that you have of how shit shows up and what it's going to do for you. So that's where we started.
I'm sorry, I turned over and I looked at a card and then I got lost and then I came back. So I missed
I haven't even done a spread and I've just had 6 jumping cards. So I'm just listening to the cards today. Once again, releasing that desire and expectation of doing what I want.
Yeah.
And the portal the way that it wants to be.
But it's really interesting though, because like as you started talking about where this all kind of grew from, I pulled the oppression card, which is like super interesting because I found so much freedom in my hair. I found a lot of self-acceptance in my hair, but even coming from that starting point of like, I don't know why, like I thought I was some sort of like 3C 4A, like nah bitch, you got a 4C curl, okay? I'm tight. Super tight curl. But I had all of these feelings around like, I need to straighten my hair. I needed to have longer hair. Like even now is something I'm accepting in myself of like, what are the blockages that are there that my only means of acceptance is my hair presenting in this way. Like even my parents I've watched, and I'm gonna put them on blast. I love them dearly. But it wasn't until my hair got longer that they found a new sense of acceptance in my choice to lock my hair.
Oh.
When it was short and when they were kind of fuzzy.
I love that stage.
It was so good. Like I look back on those pictures and I was like, you could tell me nothing. But it wasn't until they matured and are now like down my back that my parents like, oh, your hair looks so great. And it's just like, why? Like, especially with this card, like there's so much like passion in the orange in the background. And then you have these like stale lawns of just all this like energy not going anywhere. Like I'm tired. Like don't force it. Path of least resistance.
Path of least fucking resistance. Like I feel like that needs to go on here. Hold on. Like let's just go ahead and just make a little bit. The path of least resistance. Because here's the thing. Like even coming from the opposite direction, and it's so funny that we haven't really talked about this in this way before. But it's funny that we even talk about hair in this way because I felt the opposite, but kind of the same. My mom has always my mother really, really loves my hair, like a little bit more than she actually loves me as like a human being. Like, like really loves my hair. And it's literally because it reminds her of her mother. I'm like the kid, and we all know DNA is fucking random. Like DNA, you never know what you're going to get. Your kid comes out. Those of you who have children who might be watching this, you know that it's just like a toss up, like no matter what.
Draw.
Yeah, toss up. My sister came out looking like my dad's side of the family, and I came out looking like my mom's side of the family, but not even, I mean, yes, I look like how my mom looked at my age, but I don't look like my mom like today.
Yeah.
And so most of the time when people look at me, they're just like, you're a little random. Like like I've been seen with my family and asked if my sister and I are full sisters. And I'm like, we look alike. We're just not the same complexion, which is a whole other colorist issue.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, because my sister's very light skinned. So like, I had the same issue because my grandmother was, now I know that she is definitely Afro Caribbean and that she's Native American. Like that is her bloodline. My grandmother had very Native American hair and had very Native American spiritual traditions connected to her hair. When my last memories of my grandmother, her name was Johnny May. And my last memories of her, like we used to always brush her hair. Like she wanted us to brush her hair. And when my mom sees my hair, she'll like cry. So when I shaved my head, shout out to 2009 in Austin, those of you who knew me, when I shaved my head, my mom cried and didn't talk to me for almost 6 months.
Shut up.
Like, no joke.
Really?
Yes, I did shave my head, y'all. I shaved my head in 2009.
Wait, but your mom didn't talk to you for 6 months?
She was pissed.
Because you made a personal life decision?
She was livid. Like, she was out of her fucking mind mad. And she just thought I was young, making some dumb shit. And I'm like, hair grows when you're dead. Like, what is the fucking problem here?
That's also a valid fact.
Yeah, but like she was so connected to this thing where it's like, damn, like, is my worth really in this shit? And then what she also used to notice is that when I would visit my Black family in the South Side of Chicago, I would tie my hair up. Like, every time. I never wore my hair down, ever. Like, large amounts of my childhood. Anytime we went there, I would braid my hair in 2 braids, and then I would tie it up in a fucking bun. Or I would do the thing that y'all frequently see me do now, which is tie it up in my tiny, tiny bun. And she started to notice, and my aunt started to notice, and she was like, why are you always tying up your hair when you're here? And I'm like, because people don't like me. Like, this is like my 9-year-old self. I'm like, they don't like me. They think that I'm trying to be something I'm not. They assume that I'm trying to acclimate. You know, this is the South Side of Chicago. Like, people will just tell you the truth. And I'm like, woo, speak to me. But they assumed who I was. Yeah. Not only by the way I spoke, because let's be real, this was the early 90s. So when I went to the South Side of Chicago, they were like, you speak like you're white. Like, you and where did you come from? And then they look at my hair, and then they're like, oh, you're just trying to be white. Got it. Like, they're looking at me like, you're just trying to be a white girl. And I'm like, and then meanwhile, I go back to, like, you know, living in fucking suburbia where I'm caught between living around white people, but going to school with, like, international kids, like going to school with people from India, and like from, you know, just going to school with people from Lebanon, and just like being like a normal kid, and then being around the white people, and then them being like, oh, you don't belong here. So it was very much this struggle of me just like hiding it for so long, like hiding my hair, and then shaving it off to be like, well, fuck everyone. And then going through my own journey of growing it out and wearing my fro for so long, and just going through my own journey to then land right back in the same place where I always was, of just being like, oh, this is not an acclimation story. This is a reclamation story of being like, fuck everyone who defines what I get to do with my hair, and fuck everyone who decides like how Black I am based on what my hair looks like. So it's just, I feel like it's once again that the pleasure of like, I find pleasure in the path of least resistance. Yes. I find pleasure in the least amount of work that I need to do, because struggling with my hair is not something I really desire to do. And that you don't need to explain your childhood experiences, your health problems, your the thickness or thinness of your hair, your personal choices around, you know, what you look like. And that includes the people who wear hair that's not theirs, by the way, too. Yeah. You know what I mean? For sure. Yeah, like I feel like that encompasses the whole thing. So to get out of the hair space, but back into the desire space, Chloe's been over here in the comments, so I want to make sure that Chloe says the appearance is extension of the perception trying to be maintained. And she says, my children don't match either. I'm more surprised she ain't talked to you for so long. When I shaved my head, my dad didn't talk to me, but it was only for like a month. Yes, this is true. She did not talk to me for 6 months. It was like a spiritual thing for her. She felt like I was trying to distance myself from her and like my family and all this stuff. And I was really just trying to figure out who the fuck I was. So, that's that side of it. But you said some really awesome things yesterday about this topic, so I want to like give some space to you.
Well, it's one of the things that we mentioned yesterday was how desire has this feel of something that's anticipated about the future, something that's to come. Me wanting my curl pattern to be a looser, wavy something that it just wasn't was. That it was not. There we go. Yeah. While pleasure has this this element of being present. And it's really interesting because like when you were telling your story about visiting family in Chicago, the thought that came up to me was Like, how did that feel in your body? You know, because one of the things that I'm working with right now is how do these different emotions of pleasure or of safety or of, you know, wrongness or rightness, like when you just know something is not right, like how does that feel in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? And especially when you're in a state of being present, when you're truly finding joy in something, like that's when you know you can definitely point out, well, that's pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, like, was that just a sensation or a feeling that was birthed out of hearing comments and just understanding that those didn't make you feel good, or did you have a sense in your body as you're going when you just sort of felt that this was which is also interesting because when we were back at Yoga, we had a whole other conversation about the feeling and the energy of covering the hair. So I find it very interesting that in a way, like you went ahead and intuitively took that, you know, in your youngness.
Yeah. And what's funny is I think that in my youngness, it was still me acclimating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, which is like, does it make it better that I was trying to acclimate with other Black people? Or does it make it, you know what I mean? Or is it like still putting myself outside of who I am and just to try to be a part of what other people are doing? My defense in that was to hide it. Yeah, it was to hide. And let me just, there's something that you said that I want to point out, but let me just also say that as a part of my human condition, as a human being, as Scout, that is my MO. I shrink myself to hide so other people can be in the spotlight. That is my defense mechanism. Like that is my jam. I shrink down to this tiny, tiny little space where I don't take up any space at all. And I just leave the space for everybody else. And I dull all the shine so that other people can shine because I don't want people to not like me. And that was a huge part of me starting this Facebook group, was putting myself in the forefront. And I've talked recently with Jasmine about this. About, you know, she's one of the people in my life who's like, oh my God, don't stop shining because they don't like you. Like, fuck those people. And making myself go live and putting myself in the forefront because it makes you available and vulnerable to criticism, right? And my fragile little child body was like, please just like me and accept who I am because no one does. And I'm fucking weird. And so it's just,
are we all weird?
I was like trying to like slither through these little spaces, but there was something that you said that I really want to point out because what I heard from you when you were saying that desire is something that is in the future and pleasure is something that is present. What I really like about that is that it once again talks about when things are up here in the brain versus when they fall into your body. And so that's what kind of brings us back to finding that compass in our bodies, is that like desire's up here and pleasure is like in here.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like in here. But like desire is in the body and pleasure is up here, or desire is up here because desire is like, what do I want? Let's plan. Yeah. Desire is like, what do I want? Let's plan. Let's figure it out. And desire could be anything. Desire could be for pain. Desire could be for more money. Desire could be for pleasure. Desire could be for all of these things. But desire is like a plan of like, but let me just think, what do I want? And desire doesn't come from our body because we're just not trained that way. I think it should, but it doesn't in the way that we all live currently in American Western society.
I'm curious as to what that does look like, because I don't think that's something that I've explored. What does it look like when desire comes from the body?
Alignment. I feel like I feel like it looks like alignment. I feel like it looks like being able to trust yourself to the capacity of not having to do the dissection that we do every time. You know how we always do the dissection of like, why do I need this? You know what I mean? Or like, where is this coming from? Or am I having this reaction because I feel a certain way? Or like, am I, you know what I mean? Like the healthy things that we do, the healthy mental things that we do in our society and culture, we've had to learn how to pick ourselves apart because of the way that we are culturally brought up in this system. But I think that living in a culture and in a space where this isn't how we're brought up, it looks like just operating from the instincts of our primal body, which we can't really trust ourselves to do in this culture, because that's how we get addicted to stuff and surround ourselves with the wrong people and then don't challenge any of our own thought processes and then think that we're always right. So like we can't Like, we can't work from that space in this culture. We're not in that place. But I do think that like right now, in the way that we have the relationship with pleasure is now, and pleasure is like, will I feel good from this? And do I always need to feel good? And is pleasure always something like enjoyable to our bodies? And it really like we put in the bottom when we were talking earlier, finding that internal compass of like, what does that even feel like? How do we even know? Yeah. How do we know what pleasure feels like? How do we know what joy feels like? How do we know what being wrong feels like? How do we know what being sad feels like? And then how does that actually present itself in our body?
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Which, by the way, if you're watching this, throw it in the comments. What does that feel like in your body? What do these things feel like, or how have you discovered this somatically in your body? Because the reality is, and when we use the word somatic, which we do in Conscious Coven all the time. So, and Kayla will talk a little bit about Conscious Coven in a minute, but like when Kayla and I teach together, we talk a lot about somatics, and that's a word that's being thrown around a lot in the wellness world right now. And and there are some people who are just like, what does that even mean? And I like to explain it in the way that like your body has an intelligence, and your body has its own mind. Your body has its own system of remembering, and we match up. First of all, somatics is just understanding that the experiences of our body emotionally affect us. And that what we do with our body reflects on how we feel. But somatics is also the understanding that we can create these neural pathways for our body, that we can create these reactions for our bodies of remembering joy, remembering sadness, remembering what these things feel like, through rituals with our body, through familiar movements with our body, and through nurturing ourselves through movement. And so I feel like that's something we talk about a lot in Conscious Coven when it comes to decolonizing how we feel in general, and not going back to a colonized space when discussing our feelings.
And even just coming to a place where we're retraining ourselves to honor our feelings. And it's really interesting. Like my first interaction with somatics was in a class in college that was purely based around, but it was never an energetic body connection. It was never an emotional body connection. It was more about body awareness. But now, like with everything that I've learned since then till now, not that I'm trying to say my teachers did me a disservice, but it's so amazing to me that they would leave that out. Or does that just like way expands the curriculum? I don't know. But I notice for me, whenever I'm holding tension in my body, it's usually directly connected to something emotional. So, and I found that it's a lot like doing pendulum work, actually.
For sure.
When you start doing pendulum work, you notice that when it swings one way, this is a yes. When it swings one way, it's a no. If it does this other funky thing, it's a I don't know, or you ain't asking the right question. You know? So if you can acclimate to, is this sadness? Is this joy? Is this confusion or overstimulation? Then you do end up calibrating your compass in a much better way.
And it's hard when it's your own body. Like when we talk about pendulum work, like, and even with whatever it is, your children, your pendulum, your tools, you are learning how to tell their emotional state by their behavior. Like, oh, when my kid throws their head in their hands, they're frustrated.
Yeah.
And I've recognized that by pattern of that's how it expresses in their body. And when you get to know your tools, like your pendulum, and you're like, no, I know. And when it does this weird, like oblong thing, like it's just not hearing me.
Yeah.
And you start to understand the behaviors of these mechanisms and the mechanisms of these things outside of your body. It's almost kind of easy. It's easy then to tell. It's hard with our own bodies. It's hard with ourselves. It's always harder with ourselves than it is. Are we sitting the exact same way? Did I do that on purpose?
I just noticed, but I'm also like, it happens.
We always end up like cocking onto one hip. It's like it happens constantly. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely a shift. And so when people ask me like, how do I then go inward and figure that out? Of course, I don't know all the fucking answers, but I will say that yesterday when we were talking about this, and we were like, we should go live and talk about this. I was talking about it in reference to hunger, because I have been exploring my eating habits and have been exploring my dietary habits for a long while now. And especially during quarantine, just as a little background for me, I don't even know if I told you this. I recently found out that I feel like my calling to my eating was also like oddly ancestral.
Really?
And I say that because long story short, for those of you who don't know, I made a conscious decision to stop eating meat at 11. So I haven't been eating meat since I was 11. And I found out the other day that my mother took a trip to Alabama. They drove to Alabama because that is where my grandmother, Johnny May, is from. They drove to Alabama when she was 11 years old and spent the summer there on the farm. And it was back in the day where my mom told me the whole story. They couldn't stop anywhere because it was before the civil rights movement. So she was like, we couldn't stop to go to the bathroom. We didn't stop anywhere because we were in the South and we would have been fucking lynched. So they literally just drove the whole 800 miles. And they went to this farm, and she's telling me all these stories about, she was like, I loved farm life. I got to feed the chickens every day. I would go out there with the burlap sack and I would like feed them. And it was a fucking blast. Like, she was telling me all this stuff. And then she was like, but then I started to realize that we're in the fucking country and nobody goes to the store. And she was like, nobody goes to the store here. Nobody goes to the store to buy anything. And she was like, so at night, in the evening, when we'd have dinner, I would like look at the chicken on the table and I'd be like, where did this chicken come from? And then like she would slowly, her 11-year-old self like slowly realized it was the chickens that she had been feeding that like slowly make their way onto the dinner table. And she was horrified. She was like in her tiny little activist mind. She was horrified that she was eating these chickens that she had been feeding and like making bonds with and naming and all these things. So she was like, oh, fuck that. So she didn't eat chicken for the whole rest of the summer. She was like, I'm not eating chicken until we can go back to the store and actually like buy chicken like in Gary, because my mom was raised in Gary, Indiana, down the street from Michael Jackson. And yeah, like in that tiny little box house. And she was like, I'm not going back until I can like buy chicken from the fucking store. Like, I'm not going to eat chickens that I raised. So she just stopped eating meat for like 3 months. And her dad was just like, well, you're going to get hungry. So you're going to get hungry. Eventually you'll eat it. And she was like, no, I won't. And just like didn't eat the meat. And I was like, oh, so I got that from you.
That's you, Mom.
The exact same fucking thing. And I just lasted a little bit longer, but like I still did the exact same fucking thing. And so I with exploring food in that way, but then also during quarantine, exploring like my alkaline diet, exploring eating foods in the proper way of in which they should be digested, I started experiencing hunger in a different way. And this is what I was ultimately talking to Kayla about yesterday, was that I realized my hunger is less immediate. There's a lot of trauma connected to hunger for me. I have a lot of trauma connected to hunger. And I realized that usually when my hunger comes on, nowadays it's very immediate and very jarring. And that's simply because back in the day, I just ignored my hunger, and that was a trauma response for me. I spent most of my adult life and most of my teen years just ignoring all of my body signals. So like I really didn't, I mean, everything. I would hold my pee for hours for no reason. Like I just was weird. Like I just didn't do things for myself when I needed to do them for myself. I didn't eat when I needed to eat. And it was very unhealthy. But nowadays that I've started to listen again, I realize my hunger presents itself differently. And it's less like, I'm fucking hungry and I want this one thing and I better get this breakfast taco in the next 10 minutes. Like it's less of like an immediate roar in my ear. And it's more of just like something that like comes up and needs to be attended to, but is not a goddamn emergency. Like something that is not like sounding all the alarms, but is like there as like a communication with my body, and something that, you know, can wait, but needs to be attended to. But I realized that when it was so immediate that it was really emotional hunger. because I started to ask myself when I felt that, I was like, ooh, this is really immediate and sharp. Like, am I watching something uncomfortable? Am I dealing with something uncomfortable? Did someone just text me that I don't know how to respond to? Did I just get a weird comment on Facebook? Like, just all of these weird things of like, am I uncomfortable? Essentially is what I'm asking myself. Do I want to run? And am I looking to fill something because I'm feeling a certain way? And so once I started to dissect and separate the way that I felt, aside from being hungry, I had to once again go inward and ask myself, like, how does hunger present itself in the body? And that to me correlated directly with pleasure, because pleasure is another version of hunger. Sex and food are very closely related. And however we feel about food is usually how we feel about sex.
Well, this is so funny. We're going to go there today because I literally just pulled a failure card.
We're going to go there today.
We're going to go there today.
Take us there.
Yes. It's interesting because I pulled this card the other day, and it's not one that I usually see. And a lot of it is around lack of planning. I pulled the 7. This was actually the day I pulled the 7 of discs, and then I pulled the 8 of discs right after. And I had them just like sitting on my, but it's, and if it pops out, it pops out. But, failure card is like very solemn and it's dark and all this. Like the 8 of discs in my deck is got this bright yellow background and like these leaves just like gently cupping these beautiful flowers. Pretty much saying like, when you don't plan, you fail. And when you plan, you're prosperous. So that's not rocket science. But I feel like a lot of my feelings around food, let me dial back because I need to say this because I thought it was so funny that I've never heard this story about your mom and the chicken. Literally, my cousin, I had a second cousin who spent quite a few years growing up in Jamaica, had a pet goat, loved the goat. Literally exact same scenario. Like one day, all of a sudden, there was goat on the table, and his goat was gone, and he was like, no. "I was like, fuck all this. Like, I'm not.
Like, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm good." But a lot of my feelings around food have come from this feeling that I haven't planned enough, and I don't know also if this is the learned experience of having. I was one of those kids who had like a lot of responsibility early, or like gave myself a lot of responsibility early, like trying to help my parents out. But I used to always watch my parents plan menus a month in advance because they did all their grocery shopping at one time. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of like feelings around scarcity when it comes to food. And I think going back to desire and scarcity, I do the same thing now. I'm noticing that I do it less, but do the same thing now where I'll go and I'll do one big shopping trip at once. And just like we were saying the other day, like I buy a lot of fresh food. Mm-hmm. So I end up wasting a lot of food because I buy a fuck ton of food that I can't eat all at one time. But having this feeling like if I don't plan for food, then I'm not going to eat well. And that's just not the case.
Or if you don't get it now, you won't have the opportunity to get it later.
Mm-hmm. 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 I don't know what that's going to say about me and sex, but I mean, if you want to go there, we can go.
Not to put you on blast, but I will just say that I feel like, no, I mean, we talk about that all the time, which is so interesting that we're talking about desire and pleasure. And we've also brought up this topic of scarcity because we talk about that all the time. And I also just think as women of color, by the way, we are, I mean, especially if you were anywhere in the age of being on Facebook and possibly in this group, we were raised in a space of scarcity. Who knows if, hey, Kayla, who knows if you're going to have money in 2 weeks? Who knows if they're going to have what you want in 2 weeks? Who knows if this opportunity is going to come around again? Who knows if they're going to like you in 2 weeks? Who knows like what is going to happen? So you better get it now while the getting's hot or else
the getting's good.
Yeah. And so it's like, and that's how we've operated everything. That's how you and I have operated our jobs in the past of like, better take every opportunity that comes forth, better take every client. And it's like, no, that's not, no. There will always be more. And being able to like, why is it that I can't understand and have the faith and security that I saw these white people have growing up, which is just knowing that they would be provided for, and that I envied that. And I think that that's true with food too, because we also spoke yesterday. I was telling you about my fresh food battles and how I've been going shopping like every 5 days at the grocery store. And I feel so guilty about it because I've been eating nothing but fresh food. But the weird thing is that like, I expect my fresh food to last me a certain amount of time, but because I'm eating it so often, it's gone in like 5 to 7 days. And I'm going to the grocery store every week. And yeah, I'm only like re-upping on certain things. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I felt guilty. And then it's like, hold on. One, are you spending too much money? The answer is no. Are you feeding yourself properly? Yes. So why are you feeling guilty about it? What's guilty about going to the store and getting stuff you need when you need it? Like, why?
And also, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fucking great. Like, I feel awesome. And my and something I personally care about, my inflammation is going down because I don't like inflammation. Inflammation causes sickness, and I don't like that shit. And it also causes my neuropathic pain, my neuropic pain, whatever that fucking word is that I'm trying to think of right now. It causes that pain to lessen. Anytime my chronic pain gets worse, I know I'm becoming inflamed in my body. And so it's just one of those things of like, are we operating out of a place of scarcity, or do we have the perspective of knowing that we're always going to be provided for and that we don't have to attract and have everything? I used to be that person that just like wanted the food in the house and kept like, you're not even eating it. And I'm like, but I just need it to be there. Like, you know, whatever. Like, he's like, but you don't even need, you're not going to eat it for 6 days. And I'm like, I don't care. I just need for it to like,
it's there when I want it.
I'm like, I just need it to be there. Like, I just need it to be there.
I legit had that conversation with my parents the other day. I called them and they were like, we haven't left the house in 6 weeks. And I was like, and I bet the pantry is just as stocked as it was 6 weeks ago because y'all are prepared for the fucking apocalypse. And they were like,
apocalypse.
Yeah.
like, we don't need anything. And it's like, I'm sure you don't. And my mom, I mean, and that even goes into like, when I say that we were born into this, like we were indoctrinated into this space. I remember my parents were so proud when they built my house, my house that I grew up in, which my mom still lives in to this day in Katy, Texas. Moved to Katy, Texas in 1991 when like nobody lived there and it was like a farm town. And when my mom built our house, she designed the whole thing. Everything was her decision. And our pantry was underneath the stairs. And because the pantry fit underneath the stairs, she was like, well, why not just make it the whole space that the stairs take up? So like I have this very odd, large pantry in my childhood home that literally goes underneath the stairs. So like the ceiling, it like constantly declines and it's just huge, like unnecessarily large. And it was always full. It was always full of food. There was always everything in there. She had everything separated into little baskets. She's like, these are all the canned foods. These are all the soups. Here are all the snacks. This is all. And then the back tiny space was like all the medical shit that she had from like the hospital and her midwifery stuff and like just all of her medical stuff and medicines and like, you know, hemostats and just all the things that she had. And so I just remember there was always just like an allotment of food. And then I go home nowadays and I'm just like, you have a fucking grocery store in your kitchen. Like this is literally like I could go shopping in here.
My brother does. Or when he was in school, I don't know if he does now, but like when he was in school, like doing his master's program, he would come home and be like, I need paper towels. I need toilet paper. I'm taking these things out of the pantry. You don't need this giant bag of rice. Yeah. Legit would just go shopping because there's just that, and it doesn't make a dent.
Yeah, it's like there's still just ever so much food. And I also grew up with that weird like black person thing where I had a fridge in the garage and a fridge in my house. So like
that's not an uncommon thing.
I always thought it was common because
same.
Oh yeah, I always thought
people don't do that.
I mean, well, I heard from I don't know. I'm talking about my white reference friends, but like
they didn't do that because I did that.
Why do you have 2 fridges? And I'm like, I don't know, because this is what people do. We had a fridge in the garage and a fridge in the house, so we always had like twice as much food as we ever needed. By the way, when you were speaking before, Mother of Cups, please, like get rolling over those feels. And the Hanged Man, change that perspective.
I'm literally sitting here thinking, like, I look at my pantry right now, and in comparison to what my parents have, I'm like, I'm still not doing it right. And it's like, I don't need that.
What is right? What is wrong? Why are we obsessed with making ourselves wrong?
Thank you.
Yeah, why are we obsessed with that?
There's
Why are
the
we
feels.
obsessed with that
There's
note?
the feels.
I feel like that's half of my job on Facebook nowadays is just going and commenting on people's posts, and I'm like, why are you so afraid you're doing it wrong? A makeshift magic update, by the way, just in my feels about makeshift magic. Well, first of all, before I get into makeshift magic, do you want to tell these people what conscious coven is so that they understand what's going on? I don't think they really understand, even though they're technically in conscious coven right
now. Ladies, you're in the fold. Conscious Coven. Conscious Coven is kind of a love child project that Scout and I embarked on because we were unable to find other women of color who were practicing their witchery. And we wanted to be able to have a space that was dedicated to healing in different modalities and craft, and really just decolonizing how we look at these practices. And that's where one of the themes and one of the things that's very important to us that makeshift magic came from, because our grandparents were, going out in the backyard and like picking rosemary and grabbing their bay leaves and then doing magic in their kitchen. Like, there's no reason why you need to go and get specific herbs when you have spices in your kitchen. I mean, I did a floor wash the other day with cinnamon that I had in there, threw some garlic in there, because that was you have, the magic is not in the stuff, it's in you. So we've been really enjoying this journey through Conscious Coven of exploring our indigenous magic, of exploring body alchemy, and of just finding different ways to empower ourselves to heal and empower those around us, especially women of color. So yeah,
I fucking love that. And that's like exactly what I mean. That was, and I think that if you are interested, consciouscoven.life, I should put it on a thing. Consciouscoven.life is the website, and you can actually find our blog on there. And our blog, the only blog I think that's on there right now is
Makeshift Magic.
The Makeshift Magic blog. And I feel like I just need to take that link and paste it like all day long to so many posts that I see, because that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing in a lot of these amazing like Black healer Facebook groups. And I haven't seen so much in our group. I feel like our group is still very new and quiet, which is totally fine, and waiting for people to come out of their shells in their own time.
It's organic.
In a lot of these other spaces that I'm in, I'm constantly seeing these people. Apparently this is the biggest thing I've seen recently, is apparently, and all those of you who are in those other groups, y'all know what I'm talking about. Apparently the Five Below thing, like, I don't know,
blew up.
Five Below. I've heard that Five Below has blown up. And now they have all this badass chakra shit. There was a really amazing girl in another group who posted her haul of like, people kept talking about it. Like, should I get this stuff from Five Below? Is it real? And she posted like her haul that she got like a chakra book. She got a meditation book. She got a tarot book. And she got the full set. You remember the set of chakra candles we used to sell at Yoga?
Yeah.
They
Five Below?
Yeah, they had the full set of chakra candles. They had the big ones and the little baby ones. And then they also had sets of chakra like runes, like the stones with like the chakras painted on them that we used to have too. They had the whole set of those.
I've seen these conversations, but do we have a Five Below in Austin?
I don't.
They all closed. I think.
Well, here's the thing. I think that we have one in Austin, but it's not in my Austin. Like, I think it's like up north in suburbia. Like, it's not really. It's like up near the Domain.
I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, I think, because I didn't even know what Five Below was. And then I think there's one in Mueller. I think there's a Five Below in Mueller, because when I used to work in Mueller as a designer, my boss told me one day to get someone to favor something from Five Below. And I was like, I don't even know what Five Below is. Like, I didn't even know what that there was like a discount.
Don't do this to me. This is not in my budget today. Don't ask me to use restraint.
The path of least resistance. No, but I literally, so in these groups, all these people are posting these hauls, and people are like, you shouldn't What? There's a Five Below on Brody. Akila, you should know to keep those things. No, I'm just kidding.
We're both gonna be set today, guys.
I'm gonna post my ass.
I go to Five Below because it's gonna be a problem.
That's the last thing. That's the last piece of information that my ass needs to know. How do I travel on Brody every single day? How do I not even know that? Like, whatever. I see all these people posting in these groups, and they're like, should I even be buying this stuff? Is it real? And then I see some people commenting on it like, I wouldn't trust that stuff, and like yada yada yada. I get mine from like a mystic store, and I'm just like, y'all, it's all fucking rocks and plastic and wax with fucking shit in it. Like, that's all it is. It's colored wax, like in a fucking candle. Like, that's literally what's happening right now. And the only reason I'm buying it, the only reason my free black ass is buying this shit is because I'm not going to make my own goddamn candles. That's literally the only reason. I don't have the time.
Ain't there yet. Don't have the patience.
Don't have it. I don't
have my bullshit. Five Below opens at 11.
Yes. But like, when people have this nuance of like, but I have to get it from the right place. I'm like, what is the right place? None of this shit matters. Or even like, I
candles from the dollar store. Not my tea tree. My tea light candles from the dollar store.
I will never forget when fucking Chosen Eyes told me that. When I went to Chosen Eyes' who's one of my teachers here in Austin, when I went to her scrying workshop, and she was like, all of this is from the dollar store. And I was like, yes, girl, you better get it with that workshop overhead. Over here saving yourself money running these workshops. But I don't want people to think they need to buy stuff. Everyone's like, let me buy the cutest little triangle shelf, and let me buy all the crystals, and let me buy jewelry, and let me buy, waist beads, and let me buy all this stuff. And it's like, one, it's better if you make it, but two, if you don't have the space and time to make it, I get it, but you don't need it. And everything you need is already within you. You are the powerful one. The stones aren't powerful. Like, the only reason why the rock, it's honestly better to go get rocks from outside than to buy rocks from somewhere, because at least those came from the earth, and they've been with the earth longest. The earth is what's magic. The earth is what infuses those rocks and those stones and the gemstones with magic. And then
furthermore, you imprint your energy on it. You imprint your intention on it.
You imprint that shit. So it's just this sadness that I have when people are very worried about doing it right. And that's another thing I always hear is, I'm meditating, but am I doing it right? And I'm not, and I'm calling on the ancestors, but I'm not sure I did it right. And I'm like, one, they're always listening and they're always there. So that's also why I don't resonate with calling on the ancestors. Cause I'm like, you don't have to call when the phone is always picked up and connected all the time. Like, you don't have to call. You might have to switch the line. You might have to hang up on some other people to free your bandwidth, but you don't need to like call, cause they're right there. And it's really just because of my tantric ass is really what it is. It's my tantric non-dualist ass. That's like, it's all in here. It's not out there. It's like, it's all here. And the magic really lives and is embedded in you. So is the pleasure. The pleasure is just being awakened.
It's not something you have to go find.
Or that lives in somebody else. Whew. I'm just having a moment. And now it's raining, girl. Now
I know, I heard it. I gotta go move my rosemary plant.
Oh yeah, you gotta go take care of your plant, baby.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm over here wanting to like play in this rain. I am so here for this cleansing rain, man. I think that we all need a little bit of cleansing and emotional time and space. And I'm also hoping it brings this baby I'm waiting on. So I'm like, come on, storm. Babies love storms. I always like to go.
Is it the pressure change?
I think it's the pressure change. I think it's the sound, and I also just think that spiritually, it's like the water sign pulling them out. Because babies are in water on the inside.
Yeah.
So they really like being in water on the outside. And when I feel like when the water falls on the outside, it attracts them more to being out here. Which is why I always like to talk to them. I'm always like, you're missing stuff out here. It's all happening. The world's waiting on you. Come on, dude. Like, what are you doing in there? I know you're comfortable. You're missing stuff. You're missing stuff out here. Yeah. Are there any last words you want to say about our memories, about your feels, about the Ace of Pentacles, apparently, and about and about I don't know, all this amazing Scorpio energy. Oh shit, this Venus in retrograde and fucking
I saw that, yeah. First of all, this Scorpio full moon brought a lot. I haven't bled with the full moon in a long time. TMI, don't care. I haven't bled with the full moon in a long time. And it brought up a whole lot, including some real like 8 of Cups energy and me realizing like I need to set some different boundaries. And I actually really appreciate that Ace of Pentacles as I'm like trying to dive more into some other like I've been talking to you, professional things that I want to just like get out and like dive into. So I think especially honoring what brings me pleasure in terms of work, that was a beautiful way to end. And I'm working on setting some boundaries so I can focus on that shit.
Yes. Girl.
So thank you, Scorpio full moon, for that.
Yeah. I'm already feeling that Venus retrograde. I think I already went through it. I felt it a lot the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, I've had numerous nights that I've dreamt of and then woke up thinking of my ex-husband, which is a story for another live. And for those of you who don't know it, and it was a powerful thought, like to the point where it's like I almost contemplated reaching out to him, which I don't really do. We speak like maybe once or twice a year, if that. And it's like an exchange of like 8 total words, which I don't like, by the way. Like I really have a longing to be friends with this person. I have like a deep internal longing to be friends with this person. But I also think that being friends with him at this time is detrimental to his own development. And I don't, so I have to take that space away. Okay. And it hurts me because I want to cheer for him so bad. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I want to like fucking cheer for his happiness and like fucking root him on and shit. And having to like keep my distance from it because I think it's still a little bit too painful for him. Rough for me, but it's also like not about me. But I just had this heaviness, and I woke up on Saturday thinking that too, where I was like, oof, why is he back there? Why is he back in here? Yeah. And so I did. So I sent him a text message and I was like, I hope, the things that we usually say to one another when we talk like once or twice a year, which is like, I hope that you're happy. I hope that you're healthy with all this like COVID stuff. I hope your family's healthy. Like you deserve everything. Like those are the usual things we like exchange with one another. You deserve everything, and like in this world, and every time you experience that happiness and pleasure, I hope you know that you deserve it. You remember it like in every moment. And he responded with this like long, like, I hope you understand that you and your family did everything for me, and I would not be anywhere that I am now without you. And even if I had known that our relationship wouldn't work out, I would never sacrifice being married to you. It was like the loveliest time of my life type of thing. And I was just had this like beautiful exchange with one another. And it was even though we've done that a couple of times, it was the first time where I genuinely felt
it's heartfelt.
I genuinely felt closure.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, ooh, babe. Like I'm still that person that will always hope that I can just like be friends with this person. But that for now is enough. I was just like, oh, like, and I am fiercely confident that he is happy right now. Like I am fiercely confident with the little bit that I know about his life. I think that he is in a happy, content space. And that alone makes me so fucking happy. But I'm just like, why? Why did that come up? Like nothing happened. There was nothing that triggered it. It's not like an anniversary. It's not like there's nothing that's going on. Nothing but Venus in retrograde, bringing back all those old lovers and exes. So watch your text messages, y'all. Watch your I know, girl. I thought about it when you told me the other day, but I just didn't say anything because my smart ass was like, I'm just going to let you process. But
this is why if you haven't gotten a reading with Scout, like those people who can intuitively read and know when not to give information. What she just did is she just let me figure it out on my own, like a good therapist. Come on, girl.
Like you were like it like came into your body, which by the way, all the things she just said about me, she also does. So please don't get it twisted. But you like they're gonna figure it out all on your own, but I'm just like, it's out here, and it's yelling at you, it's out here. So let's journal about that.
Yes.
Let's let ourselves get into those deep feelings. If there are any unresolved feelings that you have with exes, any unresolved things that you need to say to them, be weary of those fuck boys, though. Slide in your DMs. Also, fuck girls exist too.
Also, fuck girls exist.
I was going to say, let's just be mindful of that. Be mindful of them sliding in to steal your energy and shit when they don't belong there.
The Eight of Cups and boundaries.
Yeah, set those boundaries to move in the right direction. And I'm gonna later on this week, possibly this weekend, depending on how these births go, I'm gonna come back on here. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that Venus energy. I want to, if Kayla is free, to have her back on here with me as well.
Yeah.
To chat a little bit about some sensuality and some kinky shit.
Yeah.
And while we get into that sensual Venus energy, I might even post a little bit of a risque video for y'all later.
Yeah.
You might want to. Every time I post, I'm like secretly hoping it just starts a theme and all y'all start posting your shit because I want to see y'all stuff. I know y'all are holding out on me. Some of y'all specifically, I know, are holding out on me with y'all stuff, and your thoughts and your feels, but really allow yourself to feel. I feel like this rain, it's supposed to rain in Texas, at least in Austin, for the next 7 days straight or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Let this rain cleanse you and put you in touch with your emotions. Allow yourself to feel, allow that to express itself however it may. And then maybe we just dive into really asking ourselves this week how these feelings are presenting in the body. How is your body communicating with you through that?
Yeah. I have nothing else to add.
Oh, well,
I think that's a great way to end it.
I know. I feel like we had our own little like morning mystics this morning. We just didn't like meditate. Next time we'll meditate or something. We'll do something together. But always love hearing y'all's thoughts, y'all's reflections. You've hung out with us for the last hour and 15 minutes, which is a lot. Thank you. Yeah, don't be afraid to share your heart, souls. Also, don't be afraid to just do your own thing and feel it out however you like. If anything that we said today resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. Otherwise, have a great restful rest of your day and claim that magic because it's yours.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful Tuesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.